I'm Lisa Birnbach for Howdini.com. Planning a wedding can be completely overwhelming. So many questions to ask or answer. Luckily, the wedding experts at theknot.com have come out with a handy book full of advice. It's called The Knot Book of Wedding Lists, and here to answer just a few of our millions of questions is Editor-in-Chief Carley Roney. Hi, Carley.
Hello.
Of all the issues a bride has to face, a bride-to-be, planning the reception is the one that needs most lead time, isn't that right?
Well, the reception it's 50% of your budget, it's 50% of the time that you're putting in. It has so many different factors, so you really need to start with that right away. It should be the first decision you make is where you're actually going to host that wedding.
If you are determined to have an outdoor wedding, what else besides weather and an almanac do you need to consult?
Outdoor weddings are the most beautiful weddings that there are. They also are some of the most complicated weddings. You need to have an indoor plan for your wedding. And you also need to consider things like, a lot of people think like, oh, well, I'm just gonna have it at this great location outdoors or in my own backyard. Well, you're gonna have to rent toilets if you're having an outdoor wedding. You're gonna have to lay down a floor because you can't just sit those beautiful ballroom chairs right into the dirt. They'll sink in. An outdoor ceremony is a little bit more flexible. Receptions are probably better off held either, definitely in a tent outside or indoors.
Now, for an average size wedding, I don't know what average is anymore, but let's say you have 100 friends and guests, family all together. What is the average price tag for a wedding?
Well, the average wedding in America right now is around 160 guests, actually. And the average price tag for a wedding is about $25,000.
I mean, how much variance will there be in the cost per head?
In New York City, to get married, at the St. Regis, it's $450 a person. And probably one of the best places in Cincinnati, I was saying, it tops out at $145 a person. And you can also stretch your dollar with a destination wedding very far because, there's actually, that hotel is dying to have you and your 100 guests, and they're going to go to great lengths to give you a fantastic wedding to make sure they get all those like 3 and 4 room nights, because that's really their business.
Can you actually maneuver the price at all?
Well, budget is a very tricky thing when you're planning a wedding. There's always variance. There are some places that don't have to negotiate with you. They will book every weekend for a wedding, whether you book it or not. And so you have to know that going into it, that you have to know how much your budget is and know how much that target place is like, and know that on a Saturday night in June, they don't need to work with you.
Right.
It's a combination of if you really want to sort of save money, you have to pick an off-season time or an off-season day of the week. We're saying that the Friday night wedding is a new trend, or you have to sort of start picking away and saying, I don't need that, I don't need that, and just sort of scaling things down, whether it's your number of guests or whether it's your number of courses.
Yeah, no, I have a friend who did her own flowers, and she went to the flower market and did something little homey, and she probably saved $10,000 in flower costs.
Doing your own flowers or do it yourself in weddings in general, you just have to be careful that you actually have the time to do it and have the resources. Like, yes, in New York City, we can pop over to the flower market and buy gobs of flowers in bulk, and they're all beautiful, but do you know how to condition flowers? Do you know how many days before your wedding to buy them? Do you have the containers? There's a lot of you actually have to have some expertise to do that, and you have to have the time.
Let's say there's been some illness in the family or some kind of crisis and you need to move the date. How flexible are hotels and restaurants?
It is not something that is going to go over well for you. You've usually by that time put a tremendous amount of money down on your deposit on your site. You've probably paid at least 50% before your actual wedding day. Clearly it's a factor of how close you are to the actual day and time, but since weddings are booked so far in advance, the site's not going to, give you your money back. They may rebook you, but even so, not going to rebook you soon. It's a very difficult thing, which is one of the reasons why wedding insurance has become a new trend and something, for $300 you can insure your $20,000 wedding against problems like that, illnesses or things that make it that you cannot have your wedding. And they will help you rebook and rebook your services, because the vendors, they lost that business that day. They're unfortunately not at much liberty to give you your money back, although some, I'm sure, would be happy to do it.
Thank you, Carley.
Thank you.
For Howdini.com, I'm Lisa Birnbach.